I heard my wife calling me a failure, who would never succeed, after she forgot to end the call, while I'd been paying for her family's mortgage for years. He's a mistake that should have never happened, she said. I acted normally, and didn't say anything until the week after, when I gave her the ultimate surprise. It was supposed to be just another evening. I had spent the last few hours at my desk running through the usual grind: spreadsheets, emails, financial reports. The sound of my laptop and the rhythmic clicking of my keyboard were the only sounds in the house. Sophia was out with her mother again. She hadn't mentioned when she'd be back, but that wasn't unusual. Lately, she had been coming home later and later, always with an excuse. We were just shopping. Mom needed my help with something. I lost track of time. I had stopped asking questions. I glanced at my phone as it buzzed against the desk. Incoming call, Sophia. That was strange. She almost never called me. If she needed something, she'd send a quick text. A call meant something urgent, something important. I answered immediately. Hey, babe. Silence. At first, I thought it was a bad connection. I pulled the phone away, checked the signal, full bars. Sophia? I tried again. Then I heard it. Not her voice directly, but a muffled rustling sound, followed by the scrape of a chair against the floor, and then laughter. I recognized the second voice instantly. Her mother, Caroline. Oh, Sophia, please, Caroline said, her voice dripping with amusement. You don't seriously think he's ever going to be anything, do you? Mom, Sophia sighed, but there was no protest in her voice. If anything, she sounded exasperated. I'm just saying, Caroline continued. He's a joke. He's been working himself to death for what? He's still the same pathetic, boring man you married. My grip on the phone tightened. My heartbeat slowed. My body freezing in place. I know, Sophia said, and this time she laughed. She laughed. Nathan tries so hard to act like he's this great provider, but he's just a failure. He's never going to be successful. I don't even know why he bothers. My mouth went dry. You married beneath you, Caroline added. He was a mistake from the beginning, and you've been carrying him ever since. Sophia didn't argue. She didn't defend me. Instead, she sighed. Yeah, I know. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He'll never be anything more than what he is now. Sophia continued, her voice sharp with certainty. And honestly, I regret it. Sometimes I wish I never married him. Silence. The kind that stretches long, thick, suffocating. I could hear the faint clinking of silverware, the distant murmur of restaurant noise, but the only thing that mattered was the sound of her voice. She hadn't meant to call me. That much was obvious. Somehow, by accident or carelessness, her phone had dialed my number and left the line open. She had no idea I was listening, and yet I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The words echoed in my head, looping over and over, burning into my skull. A failure? A joke? A mistake that should have never happened. The call ended abruptly. Just like that, she was gone. But I was still here, sitting in the same chair, in the same house, in the same life I had built for her. The life that apparently she despised. I stared at my phone at the darkened screen as the weight of everything settled over me. For years, I had convinced myself that I was doing all of this for us. That the long hours, the endless work, the stress, it was worth it because I was building something for our future. I had sacrificed everything for Sophia. And this whole time behind my back, she had been mocking me. I thought about every late night I had spent grinding, making sure the bills were paid, making sure she never had to worry about money. I thought about how I had taken on extra work, how I had put aside my own wants and needs to make sure she had everything she wanted. I thought about all the times she had looked me in the eye, kissed me, told me she loved me, knowing she didn't mean it. A slow hollow laugh escaped my lips. How had I been so blind? I had spent years trying to earn her respect, trying to make her proud, but she had never been proud of me. Not once. I had been fighting for something that had never existed. And now? Now I was done. Not just with her, not just with this marriage, with everything. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for an explanation. No, I was going to teach her exactly what it felt like to underestimate me. Because there was one thing she didn't know. For years, she had lived in comfort, believing that her mother's house was safe, that her family was stable. What she didn't know was that I was the one keeping them afloat. What she didn't know was that I had been paying for her family's mortgage for 6 years. What she didn't know was that the house wasn't even theirs anymore. She thought I was nothing. She was about to find out exactly who she had been depending on all these years. And in 1 week, she was going to get the ultimate surprise. I didn't move for a long time after the call ended. I just sat there, staring at my phone, the screen dark, the silence in the room suddenly unbearable. I could still hear her voice in my head, her laughter, the absolute certainty in her words as she told her mother that I was nothing, that I was a mistake, that she regretted ever marrying me. The old me, the one who had spent years trying to be enough for her, might have been crushed. He might have spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, wondering what else he could do, how he could prove his worth, but that version of me no longer existed. Because while she had no idea what I had done for her, I now saw the truth. She didn't care. She never had. I exhaled slowly, setting my phone down with careful precision before reaching for my laptop. The familiar glow of the screen greeted me as I navigated through my files, past my investment portfolios, past my financial reports until I reached the folder labeled Stratford Holdings. I clicked it open. A series of neatly organized documents filled the screen. Ownership agreements, payment schedules, legal contracts, and at the center of it all, the mortgage for the house Sophia thought belonged to her mother. She had no idea. 6 years ago, Caroline, Sophia's mother, had been on the verge of losing everything. She had burned through her savings, mismanaged her finances, and ignored warning after warning from the bank. By the time she finally swallowed her pride and reached out for help, she was only weeks away from foreclosure. And I had been the good husband, the supportive son-in-law. I had stepped in not just by loaning them money. I had bought the mortgage outright. I had worked with my financial advisor, James, to ensure that Stratford Holdings, my investment company, became the legal lien holder on the house. Caroline never read the fine print. She hadn't cared who the payments were going to as long as the problem went away. She had simply assumed the bank had renegotiated her loan. And so month after month, she and Sophia had continued living in the home, blissfully unaware that every check they sent was going straight to me. But here's the part that really got me. They hadn't even been covering the full payments. For the last 6 years, I had quietly been covering the difference. Thousands of dollars every single month. And never, not once had I asked for a thank you. I hadn't done it for Caroline. I hadn't even done it for myself. I had done it for Sophia. Because back then, I had still believed in us. I had told myself that one day, when she looked back, she would see everything I had done for her. That she would appreciate me. That she would be proud of me. I had built our entire life around that belief. And now, I realized just how blind I had been. I scrolled through the mortgage documents, my fingers steady, my mind clear. Sophia and her mother had been living under my generosity for 6 years, and they had never known it. They had laughed at me, belittled me, called me a failure, while unknowingly depending on me for everything. The irony was almost poetic. And now, I had a choice to make. I could continue pretending I didn't know. I could let them keep believing that I was beneath them. Or I could remind them exactly who had been keeping them afloat all these years. I leaned back in my chair, a slow, bitter smile tugging at the corner of my lips. This wasn't just about the money. This wasn't even about the house. This was about respect. For years, I had given everything without expecting anything in return. That ended now. I reached for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found James. I tapped his name. The line rang twice before he answered. Nathan. I wasn't expecting a call this late. What's up? I exhaled slowly, my mind made up. James, I need you to check something for me. Sure. What do you need? Pull up the latest mortgage payment for Stratford Holdings. I need to know if Caroline's check cleared this month. There was a brief pause, then the sound of clicking keys. Give me a second. Got it. Looks like the check was sent, but the funds haven't processed yet. If it bounces, they'll officially be in default. I nodded to myself. The piece is falling into place. And if they default, then Stratford Holdings can legally assume full ownership. They'll no longer be homeowners, Nathan. They'll be renters, month-to-month tenants. And if they miss rent, you can evict them immediately. I tapped my fingers against the desk, considering. James hesitated before adding, you never wanted to activate that clause before. What's changed? What's changed? Everything. I had spent years chasing validation from people who would never respect me. I had given freely, expecting nothing in return, believing that my hard work would eventually earn me a place in their eyes. I had sacrificed my own needs, my own pride, my own dignity, and for what? So they could laugh at me? So they could call me a failure while living under my roof? No, not anymore. I had worked too hard. I had given too much. Now, it was time for them to learn who they had been underestimating all these years. James, I said, my voice calm steady. Let me know the moment the check bounces. He didn't question me. Will do. I hung up. The decision was made. I wasn't going to warn them. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to fight for their approval anymore. No. I was going to let them wake up one morning to the cold, hard reality. They thought I was a failure? Let's see how they felt when the man they had mocked for years was the one holding their entire future in his hands. I closed my laptop, pushed my chair back, and stood up. For the first time in a long time, I felt lighter. Because I had finally realized the truth. I didn't need them. They needed me. And soon, they were going to learn just how wrong they had been. I don't remember how long I stood there after ending the call with James. The weight of everything settled over me. Heavy but not crushing. Not anymore. It was strange how quickly clarity could set in. How a single moment, a single truth could change everything. For years, I had lived in ignorance. Not because I had been deceived but because I had deceived myself. I had spent so much time believing that if I worked harder, pushed further, proved myself, then one day, Sophia would look at me with pride instead of disappointment. That day would never come. And now, I didn't want it to because I finally saw what had been right in front of me all along. I was never the problem. I had spent years thinking I needed to do more, but it wouldn't have mattered. Sophia and her mother had never respected me, and they never would. Not because I hadn't worked hard enough, not because I wasn't successful enough, but because they had decided a long time ago that I was beneath them. And I had been too blinded by my own determination to see it. But now I saw everything. I sat back down at my desk, opening my laptop again, scrolling through the files under Stratford Holdings. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about getting even. This was about control. Because for too long, I had let them believe they had control over me. That was about to change. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my fingers against the desk. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and for the first time in years, I was seeing the whole picture. Sophia believed she had trapped me. She thought I was weak. She thought I was so desperate to be loved that I would never walk away no matter what she said behind my back. That's what made this so much better. Because when the time came, when she realized the truth, she wouldn't just be surprised. She would be helpless. She would have nowhere to turn. And that, more than anything, would be my final gift to her. I glanced at the clock, almost midnight. Sophia still wasn't home. I wasn't surprised. Maybe she was still with her mother, laughing at me over glasses of wine, completely unaware that her entire world was about to change. I thought about texting her, a simple, innocuous message. Hey, babe. Hope you're having fun. Let me know when you're on your way home. Something I had sent 100 times before. Something she would never think twice about. Because she still believed I was the same man she had always known. She had no idea that I was already making my next move. I smirked, shaking my head. Let her enjoy the moment. Let her believe nothing had changed. Because in a few days, she was going to wake up to a very different reality. And when she did, she would never see me the same way again. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't angry. Anger was fleeting. It burned hot and fast, leaving destruction in its wake, but it didn't last. And I wanted this to last. I wanted every single moment of this to sink in. Not just for me, but for Sophia. She needed to learn. Not through shouting. Not through arguments, but through silence, through consequences, through watching her entire world crumble without ever realizing I had been the foundation holding it up. She came home late the night before. I had been awake, but I didn't say anything. I didn't ask where she had been. I didn't greet her, and she didn't seem to notice. Maybe she was too tired. Maybe she had gotten used to the quiet distance between us. Or maybe, just maybe, she was so secure in her own arrogance that she assumed I would always be there waiting. Waiting for her attention. Waiting for her approval. Waiting to be enough. I had spent years waiting. Now it was her turn. I left for work as usual, kissed her on the cheek as usual, and sent a casual, "Hope you have a good day" text as usual. She responded with a quick "You too, love you." Lies. I smiled to myself as I got into my car. Today, I was going to set everything into motion. First step, preparing the trap. I called James, my financial advisor, the moment I got to my office. "Nathan," he answered smoothly. "You're calling earlier than usual. What's going on?" "I need an update on the mortgage payments for Stratford Holdings, specifically, the status of the latest check from Caroline." There was a brief pause followed by the sound of clicking keys. "Give me a second." "Got it." The check was submitted, but the funds are still processing. Based on their account balance, I'd say it's likely to bounce. I leaned back in my chair, fingers tapping against the desk. And if it does, then the purchase option clause in the agreement kicks in immediately. Stratford Holdings assumes full ownership, and they no longer have a claim to the house. At that point, they'd become month-to-month tenants. And if they don't pay rent, I can evict them. Exactly. I nodded to myself. Everything was in place. For 6 years, I had let them live under the illusion that they were in control. That the home they had been laughing in, mocking me in, belonged to them. That illusion was about to shatter. Second step, letting the rope loosen. I didn't need to do anything right away. If I moved too soon, if I acted out of character, Sophia might get suspicious. And I wanted her to feel safe right up until the moment she realized she wasn't. So I played the role I had perfected over the years. The loving, hard-working husband. I sent her flowers at lunch, something I had done occasionally. I texted her small things throughout the day. I even called her on my way home, asking if she wanted me to pick up anything. She left. She told me how sweet I was, how lucky she was to have me. And I smiled because I knew the truth. She wasn't lucky. She was living on borrowed time. Third step, the dinner invitation. That evening, as we sat at the table, she was unusually affectionate. Maybe it was the flowers. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just habit, but she reached for my hand, squeezed it gently, and said, "Mom wants us to come over for dinner this Sunday." I didn't even blink. "Of course," I said, smiling. She smiled back, thinking nothing of it. She thought she was setting up a casual family meal. She had no idea she was setting up her own downfall. Fourth step, the final check. That night, after she fell asleep, I grabbed my laptop and sent a message to James. "Let me know the moment the check bounces." He responded almost instantly. "You'll be the first to know." I closed my laptop, leaned back, and exhaled. Everything was ready. In just a few days, Sophia and her mother would wake up in a different reality. They had spent years looking down on me. Now, they were going to look up and realize I was the one pulling all the strings. And the best part, they wouldn't even see it coming. Sunday arrived like any other day. The sun was out. The birds were chirping. And the world moved on as if nothing had changed. As if it wasn't the beginning of the end for Sophia and her mother. I got up, stretched, and made coffee like I always did. The rich aroma filled the kitchen as I leaned against the counter, watching Sophia from across the room. She was on her phone, scrolling through social media, a small smile playing on her lips. She had no idea that in a matter of hours, she'd be sitting at her mother's dining table, drinking wine, talking about their future, all while completely unaware that their future was already gone. She had no idea that while she slept last night, her mother's mortgage payment had bounced. And that meant one thing. The house no longer belonged to them. The confirmation. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't have to check to know who it was. James. Still, I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the notification for a second before I tapped to open the message. "James, check bounced. It's official. Stratford Holdings now owns the property outright." There it was. Not a surprise, not unexpected, but final. For the last 6 years, I had kept them safe without them ever knowing it. Now that safety was gone, Sophia had spent so long mocking me, dismissing me, believing I was nothing while living in a house I had kept afloat. Now, she was about to learn what it really meant to have nothing. I typed a quick response to James, "Keep monitoring their account. Let me know if they try anything." I slid my phone back into my pocket and took a sip of my coffee. Across the room, Sophia still had no idea that everything was falling apart around her. That was the beauty of it. I wasn't taking anything from her. I was just stopping what I had been giving, keeping up appearances. I played my role perfectly that morning. I smiled. I kissed her forehead when she walked past me. I helped her pick out a dress for dinner at her mother's house. When she finally turned to me, smoothing out the fabric of her outfit, she grinned. "You okay? You seem a little distracted." I met her gaze and smiled. "Just thinking about work. Nothing big." She nodded, already disinterested, before glancing at the clock. "We should get going." She had no idea. I grabbed my keys and we left for the dinner that she thought was just another Sunday meal. But I knew better. I knew exactly what was coming. The dinner that would change everything. We arrived at Caroline's house a little after 6. The house I owned. The house she had been so sure belonged to her mother. The irony was almost poetic. Caroline opened the door, a glass of wine in hand. Her usual fake smile plastered on her face. "Oh, Nathan. You actually made it. What a surprise." I returned her smile, my expression giving away nothing. "Wouldn't miss it." We stepped inside, the familiar scent of garlic and rosemary filling the air. The table was already set, candles flickering in the dim light. Sophia kissed her mother's cheek before slipping into the seat beside her, laughing about something I wasn't paying attention to because my focus was elsewhere. I was waiting for the moment when Caroline would check her mail, the moment when she would see the foreclosure notice. The moment when reality would hit her like a freight train. It didn't take long. Halfway through dinner, between bites of roasted chicken and wine refills, Caroline casually stood up and walked to the foyer, probably checking for some package she was expecting. That's when I saw it, the exact moment she found the letter. She picked up the stack of mail, flipping through it lazily until her eyes landed on the thick white envelope with the Stratford Holdings logo on the front. I knew exactly what it said. Notice of default, property ownership transfer, effective immediately. Current status, month-to-month tenancy. Failure to pay rent will result in eviction proceedings. She froze. Her wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the floor. I took another sip of my drink, watching as her entire world collapsed in slow motion. The explosion. "Mom? What's wrong?" Sophia asked, concerned. Caroline didn't answer. She was too busy scanning the letter. her eyes widening. Her fingers gripping the paper so tightly, it looked like she might rip it apart. Then her head snapped up, eyes burning with rage as they locked onto me. "What the hell is this?" she hissed. Sophia frowned, standing up to look over her mother's shoulder. She read the words blinking rapidly, confused. "Wait, what?" I set my glass down calmly. "It's exactly what it says." Sophia's eyes flicked back to the letter, rereading. Her expression shifting from confusion to shock. "No, that can't be right. The mortgage is with the bank.